This is RTV6 News at 6, working for you.
A teenage girl has died from her injuries after the car she was in with 3 other teenagers was driven into a pond Saturday night on the southeast side. Thanks for joining us here at 6 o'clock. I'm Nicole Griffin. This is a story we first told you about last night at 11 o'clock. A Metro police officer was the very first person in this water to pull that teenage girl out and a teenage boy from the car that they were trapped inside. And tonight, for the very first time, we are talking with that officer, 3-year veteran Jared Allen, who is walking us through what happened when he arrived on scene. This all unfolded around 7 p.m. in a neighborhood on Ash Tree Drive. That's near Shelbyville and East Stop 11 roads. Witnesses report seeing the car traveling at a high rate of speed on Fry Road when it left the road, hit a tree, and went into the pond. When Officer Allen arrived, there were 2 teens already out of the car. Allen, who was a college swimmer, jumped in to pull the 15-year-old girl from the back seat of the car that was submerged in the water.
I'm 6'6", so I use my length to an advantage. I put my feet down, finally was able to find the top of the car. After that, I started doing some controlled dives down, was able to find some openings and start reaching around and seeing if I could find the kids.
The girl was transported to the hospital in critical condition, but died around 8:15 last night, just over an hour after she was pulled from the water. Officer Allen was also able to locate a second victim in the car, a 16-year-old boy in the back seat who remains in critical condition. The 17-year-old driver, another passenger who is 16, is in good condition at local hospitals tonight. IMPD is still investigating why the car left the road. A Crawfordsville woman faces drunk driving charges after allegedly hitting and killing an Indianapolis man. Lafayette police found the man lying in the roadway in Tippecanoe County near the intersection of US 231 and State Road 25 just after midnight. 59-year-old Jeffrey Lynn Wade later died from his injuries. About an hour later, police got a call from a 21-year-old woman who said she believes she hit a deer at that same intersection. Police arrested the woman for operating while intoxicated, resulting in death and leaving the scene of a crash. And the days of legally driving while holding a cell phone are about to come to an end for Indiana drivers. This coming Wednesday, July 1st, Indiana's hands-free driving law will go into effect. The new law will allow cell phone use only with hands-free or voice-operated technology. A driver would be allowed to use a handheld phone in an emergency. Violators will be subject to a fine but will not lose points on their license while the law is phased in from July 2020 to July 2021. And some other new laws taking effect on July 1st, a law that separates teacher evaluations from required standardized tests, and a law that will effectively ban panhandling in Indianapolis. People will be barred from panhandling within 50 feet of an ATM, entrance to a business or restaurant, parking garage, parking meter, or public monument. The ACLU of Indiana has called the law unconstitutional. Now to your Storm Team 6 forecast. Meteorologist Kyle Mounds standing by. And Kyle, it's turned into a pretty nice Sunday.
Yeah, Nicole, we picked up about 1/10 of an inch of rain from some morning showers in Indianapolis, but much of the day has been dry. And Storm Team 6 radar, we've got the satellite on there as well. You can see things continuing to be dry out there this evening. Just the clouds moving overhead, but it is warm. It is muggy. If you were out there and that sun popped out, you definitely felt the humidity. In fact, we've got some heat index values in the lower 90s, Peru, Lafayette, and Terre Haute. Close to that in Indianapolis. It feels like 88 with a temperature of 83. And we're going to keep those temperatures in the 80s right on through 9 o'clock. Just an isolated shower or downpour in the forecast with mostly cloudy skies and that light wind that's going to be out there with us. We have more rain chances, though, going forward. So it looks like you're going to need to keep that umbrella the next couple of days. We'll detail your Monday forecast hour by hour here in just a few minutes, Nicole.
All right, Kyle, thank you so much. Now to our continuing coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on Indiana. The state health department reports 3 more deaths. 2,427 Hoosiers have now died from the coronavirus. Nearly 45,000 Hoosiers have tested positive for the virus. More than 470,000 people have been tested in Indiana, with 9.5% testing positive. Hunger is a problem that plagues each county in Indiana, and today organizations dedicated to feeding those in need came together to discuss solutions. Troy Washington is working for you to explain how COVID-19 is impacting efforts to get rid of hunger.
It's a fact. 1 in 6 Hoosier families are food insecure. Tate Nielsen is actively working to change that.
I grew up in Indianapolis, and I left for a while, and I came back, and I really got into farming just about 5 years ago as a career choice. And it was really only then that I realized what an issue that Indianapolis had.
Now he works with Indy Urban Acres.
And there's about 8 acres out there and a big greenhouse. So we've got a plant sale, and we do about 20,000 pounds, over 20,000 pounds of produce every year. And of course, this year we haven't been able to have any volunteers.
Right now, volunteers aren't allowed because of the pandemic, but the work doesn't stop since the hunger issue hit so close to home for him.
The place that I grew up in, the home that I grew up in, is now in a food desert. And that was kind of shocking to me to realize that. But I think that our main goal then is to bring the production of produce closer to the residents, and specifically for the residents.
Working for you, Troy Washington, RTV6.
Troy, thank you. Tonight, food banks across central Indiana have a critical need for supplies. This comes as thousands of Hoosiers are still struggling to put food on their table during the pandemic. Gleaner's Food Bank is serving more than twice as many food insecure families. An effort to meet the level of need for the COVID-19 family box distribution model, they need a minimum of $500,000 in weekly donations. The CEO says buying food costs 8 times the amount as the same period last year due to a severely disrupted food sourcing supply chain. He says the economic recovery for Hoosier households that Gleaner serves will likely last 2 years or more. We talked to a volunteer this weekend at a Gleaner's mobile food pantry site who says at the end of the day, we are all humans and it's important that we work together.
There's always a need to feed families, and we don't want anybody ever to go hungry, but some of the economic impact, children not being in school and receiving those meals has definitely increased the need. And there was a lot of fear in the beginning too. There still is a lot of fear.
If you are struggling and need food, there are several opportunities this week. Tomorrow in Decatur County, food will be distributed at Greensburg Elementary School from 4 to 6. On Tuesday, you can visit the Hamilton County Fairgrounds, also from 4 to 6, or Greencastle Christian Church. To help Hoosier families that rely on Gleaners, click the Give tab on their website. Some daycare providers across central Indiana are still closed due to the pandemic, but as they prepare their reopening plan, they're receiving help in the form of thousands of dollars in grant money. Recently, St. Mary's Child Center received $20,000 from the Come Back Stronger Fund. The grant program is supported by Early Learning Indiana and Lilly Endowment. So far, more than 550 child care providers in Indiana have received grants totaling $7.6 million. At St. Mary's, which is located downtown on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Street, they are using the money to be able to help protect staff members and the children once they return.
We serve vulnerable children. About 93% come from poverty. So 56% of like the 200 kids that come, we raise full scholarships for. So we never have anything extra. And so now we're looking at getting no-touch thermometers, getting all kinds of the masks, getting everything that we need to have everything be safe and good for everyone. But it's a lot.
They also plan to use the money to add additional staff that will help with the daily screening process and plan to add dividers inside their office area. St. Mary's Child Center plans to reopen on August 3rd. A bombshell report leads to major questions. Did Russian spies try to pay assassins to kill U.S. troops? And did President Trump keep quiet about it? The president's response coming up next.
Deals only at Mattress Firm.
This is RTV6 News at 6, working for you.
Tonight, President Trump is facing some criticism over his response to the New York Times report published this past Friday, saying that Russia was looking to pay the Taliban to kill U.S. troops in Afghanistan. Here's ABC's Andrew Dimber with the details.
President Trump responding today to a New York Times report that a Russian military unit secretly offered to pay the Taliban to kill American troops in Afghanistan. The Times also claiming President Trump was briefed on the findings. The president lashing out on Twitter, writing, "Nobody briefed or told me about so-called attacks on our troops in Afghanistan by Russia," adding, "Nobody's been tougher on Russia than the Trump administration." Last year, 23 U.S. troops died in Afghanistan, but whether any were targeted by Taliban fighters paid by Russian operatives is not known. A military official confirming to ABC News that Russian intelligence allegedly did offer to pay militants to kill U.S. service members, but did not know if the president had been briefed.
This is as bad as it gets, and yet the president will not confront the Russians on this score.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi on ABC's This Week telling George Stephanopoulos it was totally outrageous that the president did not respond to the intelligence reports.
You would think that the minute the president heard of it, he would want to know more instead of denying that he knew anything.
She said top congressional leaders were not aware of the intelligence, but will be seeking answers to determine if the president was briefed. The president's former national security advisor telling CNN's Jake Tapper the president's reaction shows his fundamental focus is not on national security, adding that if the president had not been briefed, he should have been asking questions as soon as the Times report came out.
Call up the national security advisor, the director of national intelligence, somebody, and said, what's going on here? What are the facts? Now, if that didn't happen in the last 48 hours, that in and of itself is disturbing.
Andrew Dimber, ABC News, Washington, D.C.
Andrew, thank you. Another disturbing milestone in the fight against the coronavirus. Globally, there are now more than 10 million confirmed cases, 2.5 million of those here in the United States, which marked yet another new record, the highest number of COVID-19 diagnosed cases in a single day on Saturday. Despite the spike today, Vice President Mike Pence downplayed the virus. He kept a scheduled appearance at a rally at a Dallas church. Meanwhile, in Jacksonville, Florida, 200 firefighters are now quarantined after 14 members test positive for COVID. Governor Ron DeSantis spoke today about the spiraling infections.
That positivity increase is really being driven by a big increase over the last 3 weeks in individuals testing positive throughout the state of Florida in younger age groups.
The president, meanwhile, took the day to play golf, but not before tweeting video from supporters heard chanting white power. Trump's campaign faces scrutiny after a video obtained by the Washington Post appears to show staffers taking down signs promoting social distancing at his Comeback Tulsa, Oklahoma rally last week. The campaign responded saying the rally was, quote, in full compliance with local requirements. Tonight, J.P. Morgan Chase blames a technical issue after customers woke up this morning to find hundreds or thousands of dollars missing from their accounts. Reports of money either debited from or credited to individual and business accounts popped up on Twitter. Many people also reported that Chase customer service was closed Sunday morning. Chase now says a technical issue overnight delayed updates to checking accounts. Chase says the issue was resolved by late morning. Let's get another check of your forecast now with Kyle.
Yeah, Nicole, nothing will get you out of bed faster than some money missing out of the bank account, will it? Well, this morning we had some rain around central Indiana, but again, much of the day has been dry, and as we look out over Indianapolis right now, quite a bit of blue sky, and as we look at those clouds, you notice they're not really building, and so that's telling us they're not really developing into any downpours, and I think any additional rain is going to be very isolated. We got plenty of warmth, though, with temperatures generally in the lower to middle 80s, 79 right now in Greenwood, but it's 83 in Kokomo. Other half of this story, though, the tropical humidity has returned. We've got these dew points in the lower to even middle 70s in Peru at 75, so that's what it gets to that oppressive feeling. And looking at the muggy meter over the next several days, it's going to stay humid to very humid right on through the work week and may see a little bit of relief heading into next weekend. Here's a look at Storm Team 6 radar, though. Again, things are fairly quiet. We had a couple of those showers try to develop this afternoon, just couldn't sustain themselves. and have since fallen apart. So tonight, I think will be dry. Temperatures are really not going to drop very far at all. In fact, we're not going to get out of the 70s for a low at 71 degrees. Monday forecast, scattered showers and thunderstorms, and I think we will have more coverage than what we had today. Temperatures will still make their way in the middle to upper 80s, could even squeak out a 90 or two there across the western portion of the state. 88 for the high in Indy and Columbus, but with that humidity, it is going to feel like the lower 90s with that heat index. Here's TrueCast by mid-morning on Monday. We've got the clouds. It'll be a dry start to the day, but as we get into that afternoon heating, that's where we start to see those showers and thunderstorms developing. We don't have any severe outlooks. Can't rule out a storm with some gusty winds, but still, it's going to be where we're dealing with some of those heavy downpours and a couple of those thunderstorms as they move on through. As far as rain chances, those are going to carry over through the next several days here and could start to add up, especially as we get into Wednesday. We're talking about another 1 to 2 inches of rainfall possible across central Indiana, and some of those areas that get under the thunderstorms could have a little bit more than that. 7-day planning forecast, high temperatures, middle to upper 80s until we get to next weekend, and that's when things will heat up a little bit more and rain chances come down. Dave?
And I'm Dave First. Beautiful afternoon at Meridian Hills. Who's ready for a round of golf and maybe a hole-in-one or 8? That story coming up in our Sports Extra Spotlight.
Road ahead.
There's a bizarre trend on the city's north side, one every golf player hopes will continue. It's Aces Wild. Sports Director Dave First with the Sports Extra Spotlight.
Meridian Hills Country Club has been around for nearly 100 years. And during that time, it's never seen anything like this. It all started with Brian Acton the day after the club reopened, a hole-in-one on the par 3 12th. Then it was David Draga on the same hole a few days later. And then 3 weeks later, over on the two-way radio.
I'm giving a lesson, and all I catch is, hole-in-one. So I sort of back off my lesson. I sort of whisper into the room. I'm like, did we just have another one?
Sure enough, it was Dr. Don Shelburne on the par 3 15th, a 9-iron from 119 yards out. The rest is almost literally like clockwork. 2 days later, 88-year-old Dr. Jack Williams got his first ace on the par 3 7th. And the next day, it was Dr. Tom Leipzig back on the 12th. And then another 2 days later on the 7th from Tom Rush. It makes you wonder, what's in the wind at Meridian Hills?
I will say this. With being closed in that month of April, I know our grounds crew, and I mean this sincerely, they were able to do a lot of things on the golf course that they probably could not do if we would have stayed open. And right now the golf course is in the best stinking shape I've ever seen.
Scott Kaysen would agree. On June 14th, he aced the 7th with a 9-iron. And most recently, Greg Sheridan with a hole-in-one back on the 12th.
That green is the one of the green that if you hit to the left of the green, everything sort of kicks to the right. So we call it the membership bounce. So hit to the left, got lucky.
Make it 8 hole-in-ones in 8 weeks. They all get their name added to the club plaque, a season-ending dinner, and more importantly, scholarships to many of the college kids who work at the course. Still, though, 8 in 8 weeks?
Some of the pros that follow me on social media, they think we're still using those coffee cup size holes. Some of them think we have three holes per par 3.
It's about perfection. Perfect greens, perfect conditions, capped by a perfect shot. And as you might imagine, the amount of play here at Meridian Hills has picked up over the last couple of weeks, last couple of months, really. In fact, they're doing almost double the activity they usually do this time of year, which can make finding a tee time. Oh, yeah, tee time. Can I get one for next week? Almost as difficult as the hole-in-ones themselves. 2 o'clock's perfect. Day first, RTV6 Sports. Yeah, foursome. Yeah.
On RTV6 hiring Hoosiers partner.
This was the scene today at Hotel Tango. They hosted a Sunday drag brunch for Pride Month. Proceeds from the ticketed event is benefiting Black Lives Matter Indy. Organizers say today was a chance to shed light on recent events while giving back to a cause that is near and dear to their hearts. Those we spoke with say equality and inclusivity has always been a focus at Hotel Tango.
I think it's very important that each individual gets out there and let their voice be heard, because you never know. Tomorrow's not promised, so I just really think that it's important to absolutely utilize the voice that is given to you.
There were 2 events today. Tickets bought you 2 cocktails and a box of brunch, and only 30 people were allowed inside, and the Queens donated a portion of their tips. Kyle.
And keep that umbrella handy the next several days. We've got those scattered showers. We'll heat things up next weekend.